Hi, I'm Kevin Drinkall.
Hi, and I'm Michel Nicolai, and we welcome you to Zyxel Networks podcast.
We've been in the network industry for over 15 years, and in these podcasts we want to try and untangle the world of networking, debunk some of those myths, explain some real-world examples along the way, to help you make better choices about selecting the right tech, product, and even help you guys build faster, more reliable, scalable networks, or just to keep your kids happy at home. Well, welcome back for another podcast. And in today's podcast, we're going to talk about security. Again, Michelle.
Yeah. And to be specific, cybersecurity, for how to secure our network.
Yeah, for small to medium business, I think we need to focus a little bit around that. And today we also have our special guest that we dragged in off the street.
No, thank you very much.
I found you wandering around here.
Yeah. It's always good to be back.
Okay, so I guess on this podcast we want to talk a little bit around small to medium business and cybersecurity, and the kind of challenges they have. Hugh, you had some questions that you wanted to sort of pose, and then we could work around those, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you know that 43% of cyber attacks specifically target small businesses? And are they prepared to defend themselves against these threats? And if we look at a stat from Verizon, over 3,000 data breaches versus 1,000 are targeted at the small business. So that's 3 times the size.
Yeah. And also there was another independent study done that only 14% of small businesses are actually prepared for this type of threat.
Yes, they have the right solution to defend themselves. Yeah.
So the question is, we're too small to be targeted. Is that a correct statement?
Not really, because when you look at it doesn't matter which kind of analytic that you actually look at. There's so many different reports done for security, right? But regardless of that, if you wanted to compact it all into one, there is a common theme that goes among all of those, is that small to medium businesses and even SMEs, they are often the prime target for threats, security, hacking, right? Often I'm not worth hacking, I'm too small, who would pay attention to me, I'm just a small business. But actually, they are the ones that are least protected, so they are easier to go for. Small little values is often the target, right? You hear so many stories about cybersecurity breaches. Yes, you hear the big ones in the news, but actually lots and lots of business suffer from this as well. So I think this is a big problem area for small to medium business. And I think a lot of companies probably don't realize that they're not protected enough, right? And we talked about some of those features and functions in another podcast that talk about when you buy a cybersecurity solution from Zyxel, for example, what does that include? What do each of those bits do?
Yeah, what all the applications are doing and protecting you and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's right. We're not going to get into that in this podcast.
No, but now it's more about creating awareness that really for SMB, you have to take really good measurements to fix your protection as an SMB. That's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we said before, we're too small to be targeted, as Hugh mentioned, or we're not worth hacking. It's pretty much a myth, because actually attackers go for where there is least resistance or lowest, pushback. Enterprises are normally much more equipped, have dedicated staff, much harder to target. So,
dedicated budget, don't forget about that.
That's right. And obviously SMBs or small to medium businesses, it's not their primary focus. They're trying to do their business and grow what they're doing, right? And this is probably the least on their mind, but actually it really needs to be a pretty critical part of their business. And this is what we want to try and cover in this podcast, to try and unravel a little bit about what that is and how that happens, right? And like we say, of course, we have a solution like we mentioned there about our USG FLEX H series, which is our cybersecurity range, right? And the whole idea of that product range is to take enterprise solution or enterprise type security solution, cybersecurity solution, and bring that down into this small to medium business or SME or SMB space, and allow them to take advantage of those larger technologies. But
and don't forget, we also have a great cloud solution to manage this for all the customers.
Yeah.
To make it, let's say, easy to build these kind of protections for your customer.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, we actually call it a secure cloud networking platform, right? Because in small to medium business space, we're actually the only one that has a full cybersecurity solution that's managed by a cloud. And also, has the security elements of the cloud platform and other security elements of other elements of the network, like wireless and switching as well, right? So, when you can incorporate all that together, we can manage that all together. And obviously, another area which is these customers, they're often being managed by a managed service provider, and there are a lot more, restrictions or requirements, based on that they have to fulfill now to make sure that they're protecting cybersecurity. And the idea here is that our secure cloud networking platform, Nebula, allows you to deliver that at scale. But for those smaller customers, so that you can do it at a more affordable price, but deliver those key cybersecurity solution parts, right?
And I think also the ease of use, how we bring it to the customer, is important. Like we can build a template that is fit for SME and you can replicate through. So yeah, we're trying to help our customers to bring a proper security distributed through all their customers.
Well, I mean, not just that as well. You need to be able to prove what you're doing. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Often the issue with security is, especially for managed service providers, is how do they show their customers what they've been doing, right? So I think also Nebula also enables them to show what they've been doing, how they've been protected, and also give them reports and even help them identify threats ahead of, before it becomes an impact or damage.
Yeah,
right?
That's important.
Yeah.
So you convinced me that we now need a Series H cybersecurity device in my small to medium business. And that's great, fantastic. And it's managed by Nebula and we get all the reports, etc. I get hit with ransomware and I have no idea how it got in. What is your solution going to do for me? This is something we hear quite a lot about is, great, we've been hit, fantastic. I've lost money, I've lost files, it's been damaged, etc. How do we track this down? Again, looking at some statistics, 88% of all ransomware incidents involved the SMB, right? Because these are easy targets to hit. What tools do we have in our toolbox to be able to handle this?
Well, I mean, it's a very good question, Hugh. I mean, from it's one of the repeated horror stories that you hear, not just from when customers come to us, right? They're seeking a solution after often, right? So you hear about the story and why they're now looking for cybersecurity. As I said before, the idea is to try and prevent it in the first place. So ideally, you would have a solution in the first place, right? But we hear the horror stories, right? Then, and not just us, we see them online from other, from many, many small businesses, and some to the point where it's actually made them go bankrupt, right? So it can be absolutely devastating to them. The root cause is not always the same, though. So the way that we need to sort of look at this is how do we look at, or how do we break it down into sections, and how do we protect them, right? So ransomware obviously is a type of malware. A lot of the functionality in the USG FLEX H series will actually do a multi-layer approach to facilitating that, but also things like Secure Reporter that we have built into our secure cloud networking platform Nebula allows us to also look at a timeline, post-event, to also identify what happened, how it happened, and how to prevent it moving forward as well, right? So we do have the tools in there. The other thing is, how many people say they've got antivirus and they think that's enough, right? Actually, the security part on a network is something that needs to be added additionally. It's not one or the other. It needs to be put together. And I think when you add these tools together, like there's the deep packet inspection, the traffic that's being passed through, and all the sandboxing function, and we'll go a little bit into that in a minute, right?
The zero-day protection, that is something that's really necessary nowadays.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, right? So because I want to touch on also phishing as well, right? So we'll come to that in a minute. So within the USG FLEX H series and combined with Nebula's secure cloud platform and all those components, it gives us the tools, a multi-layer approach to protecting for if something does get into your network and it's going outbound, it can stop it. If something's trying to get into the network, it can try to stop it. If a user exposes something from in the network, it will try to block it. So there are different levels of techniques. And like I said before, we mentioned them in great detail in another podcast about detailing how they all function, right? To stop the customer from being attacked. Of course, there's never 100% foolproof in any solution. So there's always, and most of the time it's down to human error, right? The issue comes, the threat comes from something like clicking on an email, right? Or, or bringing something into the network often. So you need something for stopping traffic or something calling home, like ransomware has multiple approach. So first of all, it needs to get into the network. And then once it's in the network on a device, it needs to call home. And then it has a two-way communication to build an encryption key, encrypt it, and then obviously then you get the ransom, request. So at that point, we can either detect the fact it's coming in, and if if it's been brought in through another method which can't go through the firewall, then you can also block it on the way out as well. The sandboxing functionality can also be part of that, and Secure Reporter gives you all of that information. Then that helps you kind of analyze and work out, and also pre-stop that function as well. Another thing, if you're really interested in that as well, is we do actually run a regular webinar on actually doing that approach where you can see Secure Reporter and you can see an attack happening and how to find it as well, right? It's part of our onboarding cycle for Nebula, actually. So that's a really interesting process to go to as well.
That's great. That's fantastic. So now we can understand how it got in. Obviously, you've talked a lot about different attacks that come in, and you're absolutely right. I would suggest one of the most common entry points is ransomware is phishing, right? I very nearly got caught out earlier this year. A hotel actually got hacked with my details. They knew when I was staying, my reservation number, they knew my email, they knew my phone number. They just didn't have the bank details. So they sent me a phishing link through WhatsApp, try to click on it. You open it up, you think this is important, and came through. So again, with our USG Series H cybersecurity platform, with all of the protection that we talked about back there, how would this help? And why is this important?
I mean, as you mentioned, just to start with your beginning bit, where they are getting more sophisticated, the phishing attacks, right? They look more believable than ever before. Some of them, they even use special characters in the URL just to sort of disguise, so it looks like it says the real company, right? But it's actually not. I remember, is it Microsoft? They use a different character for Microsoft. So it was not actually Microsoft's website, but it was a different character that was similar. So yeah, they are very common. Obviously, there are, I would say, some filters in place before they even arrive in your mailbox. But of course, lots of them, they're always finding different ways of getting there, right? Like you say, we need to, you can't remove the I would say the problem as in someone clicking on an email, because that's human nature. And that's where the problem often starts, right? So you have to, I would say, put in place something that reduces the risk, right? How do we reduce the risk? Even if they click on it, how do we stop it from going anywhere, right? And for doing that, we can look at using things like URL, reputation filter, content filtering, DNS filtering, and anti-malware protection in this multi-layer approach I mentioned before, right? And actually, there's actually an open stat. Small to medium business employees face about 350% more social engineering attacks than enterprise staff.
Yeah, I've seen it again personally with LinkedIn, where connections have been made, emails have been sent to internal staff, spoofing myself, for instance, asking for payments, and it's only been down to human interaction that some of these things have been stopped, right? So the SMB and firewalling and cybersecurity has always been about the inbound. It's also, as you've highlighted, it's also important for the outbound as well.
Yeah, and I think also because to some degree our firewall will help to protect, but there is also an element that we need to educate the people that are using the network, how to detect the things in the email and not just pressing the links that are provided. So it also touches the user itself as well, to educate him, because as you said, Gav, it's not 100% that if you put a firewall in there, it is 100% protection. Yeah, it is a balance that also the user itself needs to be aware that this can happen.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when we can put so many best practices in place in any organization, right, and test, etc. And I would say, as soon as a new URL has been detected, or a dangerous website, or even domain name has been found, it will be added to the list immediately. And then obviously if someone tries to click on it, it will block them.
Yeah, and of course the security reporter will give you that information, and then it's up to, let's say, the administrator to take that information and make the profile on his security product even better. Yeah. So blocking maybe more URLs, or to keep the network clean and more protective.
Yeah. I mean, also you could argue that by using Secure Reporter, it would actually help you educate you as an administrator or MSP.
Yeah, of course. Where you need to focus. It's an education tool to make your security even better.
Yeah. So it can, and also it gives you a measurable metric to say, we did training on staff and we reduced by this much, right? Not because they just clicked on it, but also because you can also see where.
And you can see it over time if you are improving on your security. Yeah. How many hits you had in a previous year or month or whatever. So you can see how it's improving.
So, of course, I mean, the other topic that I often know, around phishing is often people say, oh, well, but I've already got, antivirus on my computer. And as I mentioned before, I think it's just not enough on its own. You need to have, yes, endpoint security, as they often refer to on the machine.
It's a key element.
Yeah, is one key element, but the networking is another element, right? So, and also, if you really look at some of the advanced features, our secure cloud networking platform, Nebula, you can also see that we have got some elements on the access point to contain devices at the edges of the network as well, right? So we have something called CDR.
To keep it clean.
Yeah, so we can also contain devices that are infected as well. So on slightly larger networks, you can also utilize functions like that, where the access point and the security are working in tandem with each other to make sure that the network is safe, right? So, and that also includes when you're using, remote access points and stuff like that as well. So I think there's lots to be said for the kind of solution that we can put in place to do that. But if we go back to the actual topic, phishing is a very large part of security. It has to be considered as a very risky part of everyday operations.
Right? And it's everywhere.
And it's, like I said before, 350% more social engineering attacks than there is in enterprise. So they definitely focus on small to medium businesses or SMEs, right? So
they're the easy target.
Yeah, they're easy targets. And whether you feel that you are a target or not, the statistics all show that that's the case, right? It doesn't matter whichever report you read. There's loads of them, like I said at the beginning.
Off the topic, didn't Jason Statham do a film like this?
He did one Beekeeper, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was very interesting because it's a very hot topic, isn't it? Security, and they took it into kind of mainstream film.
But it was a phishing attack.
It was a phishing attack, and the lady, I mean, it was pretty severe. And is obviously, we don't want to go to the extremes of blowing the building up, right?
No, that's not too far, right?
Maybe,
let's just stick with the
blocking it.
The blocking will be good. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good example that it's not just, for enterprise businesses. In that film, it was a lady who was targeted, right? At home. So they are easier targets in the eyes of, somebody trying to do the hacking, right? As I said before, the large organizations, they already have allocation, and Michelle mentioned they have some kind of budget, and and especially when you are a managed service provider providing services to these types of customers as well, very difficult to get a balance between the right price point, the licensing, the security solution, and
it's always a balance.
Yeah.
And you never get 100% guarantee that you are protected.
Well, there's lots there we discussed, and I think we can come to a bit of a conclusion, right? I think when we talk about all of this stuff, phishing and ransomware is still by far, and I don't think it will disappear until something else new comes along.
Especially also in SMB.
Yeah, especially in SMB. So cybersecurity is really, really important, and I think small to medium businesses are more prone to attack the larger organizations. So something like secure cloud networking, like our Nebula platform, is really something that is important. And like I said, for us, we try to bring that enterprise tech into small to medium businesses so that it's almost like autopilot for them, right? It can be, yeah. And for SMBs, they definitely need to consider, like, how are they going to protect their business? Should be not like a choice. It's more of, it's just part of doing business, right? So their everyday business needs something to protect it, and this is what it is, right? The other thing is, if you are an MSP managing clients like this, then our Nebula solution gives you those tools to not only deploy, but also scale out.
Yeah.
Create policies, that can deliver the solutions, quickly react if anything happens, and even proactively secure networks. So you're not become an incident report. It's actually protect schedule, right? And things like Secure Reporter allow you to manage and scale, and also help you maintain those compliance that now is being put in place across Europe and parts of other parts of the world as well.
And don't forget the ease of use, how we provide all this to our customers, because that is our really strong point with using our security cloud system, Nebula.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope it's a bit more of a serious topic, right? The security. But I think the message is very clear, right? That we're trying to bring that enterprise tech down into SMB to protect those small to medium businesses, where all the statistics and analytics show that's where it happens, right? So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and join soon.
Yeah, and see you in the next podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much.